All right, Ms. Tomasic.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the PSR and be prepared to proceed with sentencing today.
Good.
If I had a chance to speak with Mr. Johnson, I do want to ask the court to allow Mr. Johnson a chance on community control with drug treatment and possibly mental health treatment. It is clear that Mr. Johnson does have a history of drug abuse and a history of mental health issues. Mr. Johnson, prior to this, was sober for 4 months. He did find out, unfortunately, that he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. He went to Care Alliance, and then they referred him to Cleveland Clinic. We did reach out to them. We were just waiting to get medical records to show that Mr. Johnson, in fact, does have prostate cancer, so that is the reason for testing positive. Mr. Johnson, back in June, his father did pass away from prostate cancer, so finding out the news about that really affected him. He was in a sober living environment. He was at, I believe it was Recovery LLC, Recovery First LLC. Our office did speak with David Pines regarding that information. Mr. Johnson also is working. He does work part-time with his brother doing yard work. Mr. Johnson also does live in a somewhat of a high crime area, so sometimes he unfortunately gets himself into situations and it's hard to get himself out of. This case has been a very interesting case. I know we talked to Chambers regarding all that information. So we do just want to ask to allow Mr. Johnson a chance for community control, give him a chance to get sober, remain sober, give him an opportunity to continue going to doctor's appointments to see if there's any treatment for his prostate cancer. That way he does not pass away anytime soon like his father did. So we would just like to ask to give Mr. Johnson a chance. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, what do you want to tell me?
I understand the seriousness of the offense, Your Honor. I hold myself accountable for my actions. If given a chance for community sanctions, I would prove to the court that I can be a responsible, productive citizen. I made a bad decision when I was out on bond, Your Honor, by using that. I'm just remorseful for wasting the court's time and your time, Your Honor.
Where'd you get that check from?
A guy named Pork. I don't
What?
know a guy named Pork. I don't know his government name, Your Honor.
Guy named Porter?
Pork. That
Pork?
was his street name, yes.
Pork. Where'd you meet Pork to get the check?
Well, his brother stays in my building.
You ever meet Pork before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're at your building where you live.
No, I was at sober living when the transaction transpired, Your Honor. He called me.
Where was the sober living?
On West 18th and Denison.
West 18th. So, Pork come and see you or what?
Yeah, I was coming from a meeting and he told me that I was doing some yard work for him and he told me that he had a payment for me. I didn't know the check was stolen. I didn't realize the check was stolen, Your Honor. He told me that it was from his lady friend.
And so, did he write a check out to you?
Yes, he put the information on the check, yeah.
Okay. For $1,650?
I believe that's the amount, Your Honor.
How much work did you do for him?
Well, I was supposed to do 10 yards at $60 a yard.
All right, so that's $600.
Mm-hmm.
But the check was for $1,650.
I was giving him the difference.
So he wrote a check out. His name wasn't on the check, right?
Was his name on the check? My name was on the check, Your Honor.
No, it was made out to you, but the account was for Patricia Reyes, right?
Uh-huh. He told me it was his girl.
And the address was in Paynesville, right?
Right.
When's the last time you were in Paynesville?
I never been to Painesville.
Right.
But to turn myself in for when I found out I had the warrant, that's the only time I ever been in Painesville, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, you ended up getting arrested in North Olmsted, was it?
I had a warrant in North Olmsted.
Okay. All right, now, how many times you done this before? This kind of thing before, this forgery stuff?
I may have one other one. I didn't, this one was an error on my behalf, but the other one I did do, Your Honor.
Right. What other one?
The other forgery charge.
So were you doing the work for Pork or somebody else?
Well, I used my brother's equipment.
What?
I use my brother's equipment. He has a landscape business. I use his equipment.
Right, but he's not Pork, right?
My brother?
Right.
No.
Okay, so who's Pork in relation to your brother?
They don't know each other.
Then why is Pork paying you to cut lawns for your brother?
Because he know I helped my brother out.
How does he know that?
I told him.
Well, before Pork gave you this check, when was the last time you saw him before that?
I seen him around the building a little bit. I know.
Well, he don't live there, right?
Pardon me?
He don't live there.
No, he doesn't live there.
He hangs around there?
Yeah.
I mean, none of this sounds true. Where did you take that check to cash it?
West 25th, Dollar Bank.
Was that the account? Was the account from Dollar Bank?
I'm not sure, Your Honor. I just know.
Do you have an account at Dollar Bank?
No, sir. Your Honor, I don't know what to tell you. I accepted a check from him as payment to cut some lines.
Well, you've been involved in this stuff for a long time, right?
As far as what, Your Honor? I have an extensive criminal record, Your
Right.
Honor.
You didn't think anything was wrong here?
No, because
But at the time he gave you this check for $1,650 and told you to take $500 and give him the rest, you didn't think anything was like weird about that or anything?
not at the time, Your Honor. It was 600. He told me it was 10 yards for $60 a piece.
What kind of work does Pork do
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
besides stealing from people, according to what you're telling me, right?
Your Honor, I didn't know the check was stolen.
Well, you had a forgery in Medina County 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. What was that all about? What'd you do?
It was a check involved, and I took it to a Walmart and tried to cash it, Your Honor.
Whose check was it?
I believe it was a payroll check, if I'm
A
not mistaken.
payroll check?
Yes.
Where'd you get it?
A friend of mine, well, not a friend, an associate of mine.
An associate of yours. So he gave you a payroll check made out to who? Made out
To me.
to you?
Yes, sir.
At a place you didn't work, right?
No, I took it to a Walmart in Medina.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Were you on a payroll somewhere, or it was just a stolen check?
I believe it was a stolen check.
Okay. And you cashed the stolen check?
No, I didn't. I never. They arrested me before I was able to cash it.
That wasn't Pork, was it?
No, I just met Pork about a year ago.
A year ago, like last February,
Yeah, about that time, Your Honor.
right? And this happens in May. Did Pork ever give you any other checks?
No, sir.
Did he ever try to get you, did he ever talk to you about getting cash and checks before?
No,
Just
Your
this one time?
Yeah.
And then when you did this, and you gave him the money, the $1,000 or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
$1,150?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see him after that?
No, sir.
So it was just a one-time thing.
That's correct.
And if this is the way it happened, you didn't think there was anything strange about that?
After I went to the welfare office and found out I had a warrant, I did.
Okay. Where were these lawns you cut, these 6
On
lawns?
the west side of Cleveland.
Where at?
The rain. I cut like four lines, y'all. I didn't never complete the job, but I cut his line, his son's line, and I guess somebody else in his family line.
He lives on Lorraine?
Yeah.
His brother lives in your building?
Yes.
Okay. How many times did you cut his lawn?
Like twice.
Okay.
I trimmed the hedges and that's why I came up to $60. I trimmed the hedges, cut the line, and did the weed whacking.
Did you spend all that money?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Anything else you want to tell me?
And I'm remorseful for the crime I committed. And
Well, why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep committing crime? I mean, are you always remorseful when you commit crimes?
no, I'm not a young man anymore, Your Honor. Now I realize that it's time for me to get my life together. And I am remorseful for Miss Reacher accepting the check from Port, messing up Miss Reacher's account. And I am remorseful for a lot of the crimes I committed, Your Honor.
Mr. Tavanchi?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It may be that the defendant does have some problems, maybe drug, maybe mental health. In my mind, it is clear he's not a fitting candidate for probation. We've noted his extensive felony record, and this thing dates back some 30 years of consistent convictions. Some 18 to 20 separate felonies. If I got that number wrong, I'm sorry, I stopped counting. These felonies involve harm to others, not just drug possession, but drug trafficking, theft, assault. He has served at least 5 prison terms, has committed 10 PVs. In this case alone, he violated bond when he tested positive for PCP. This is, and on top of that, Your Honor, he has a multitude of misdemeanors in a variety of crimes involving violence and dishonesty, and I think we've seen some of that dishonesty here today. The defendant, in my mind, has not shown remorse. He's engaged in some sort of Orwellian doublespeak. At one point, he says that he, quote, made a rash decision to cash a stolen check, but then he says he did not know the check was stopped. So to me, that's nonsensical. I can't make...
Stop? What do you mean stopped? I thought he cashed it.
That's my point, Your Honor. I can't make heads or tails of it. In his PSR, these are his words. So again, that's why I call it Orwellian doublespeak. I don't know what he's saying. What I can get from it, Your Honor, is that he's being dishonest, and that has actually been reinforced in court today. I should note, Your Honor, that the check made out was made out to him directly. There was no other name on it besides his own, no other signature on it. Well, there were two names. There was, of course, Ms. Recker's signature, or at least one that purported to be her signature, and, of course, the defendant's endorsement. There was no other endorsement on that check. It was actually drawn on a dollar bank, which is the same bank that the defendant actually walked into. I believe you probably knew that it was drawn on a dollar bank, and my understanding is that dollar bank is more likely to actually cash checks made out to on their own accounts. I don't know whether that's true. Point being, Your Honor, with regard to the victim lives in a senior living community. At the time of this violation, she was 82 years old, an elderly person, and presented to me that she at some point also had bouts of dementia. She and her daughter have been very clear that the original check was never issued, and that at the time of our meeting, it still remained in the checkbook. So what we can gather is that someone duplicated the check, and someone who most likely had access to the information that of Ms. Recker's checkbook. And from what I understand from the victims, Ms. Recker really only uses her checkbook to pay rent and perhaps someone who comes in to clean her apartment. Point being, she lives in I wouldn't say a bubble, but her activity with that checkbook is very sparing. She uses it in that apartment complex. Again, it's a senior living apartment. We're talking about vulnerable individuals. For me, this is a distasteful crime. A person who may have been targeted, we think, because they live in an assisted living, or not assisted, in a senior living apartment complex, Your Honor. For all of these reasons, we will be requesting prison. Thank you.
Okay, so how does somebody, it's got to be somebody related to that apartment complex, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Otherwise, they don't get the information
That's correct, Your Honor.
and know to use a current number check.
Yes, Your Honor,
of the
that's
victim.
correct.
So what's going on at that apartment complex? That
I don't know, Your Honor.
somebody's getting into her stuff and
Right.
stealing her stuff.
I can't remember the fellow's name, the VP of operations of some sort that's part of the property management stopped returning my requests for information. We were trying to establish employment lists or anyone who might have actually had access through some sort of official channel, like perhaps temp agencies or contractors who would come in, because it seems clear to us
How
that...
big of a complex is this?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Cindy?
I pass it all the time, and it looks like a lot of buildings and a lot of apartments.
If they're three-story buildings, I would say there's at least 3 or 4 buildings with multiple apartments. It's a good size.
Probably like 150 units, something like that.
Okay, so is anybody looking at what's going on at that place? Because somebody on the inside's stealing.
Yes, Your Honor, I don't disagree with that. That's something that I have still in the back of my mind to ask. To be quite honest with you, there was also a report out of there of another incident that's unrelated that the gentleman from New York actually brought to my attention that I'm also looking at. So I don't really know what the answer is to that. There does appear to be something going on. Again,
You never been in Painesville.
No, sir.
Pork lives on Lorraine, on the west side.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You've only seen him at his brother's apartment on East 98.
That's correct.
Okay. So,
there were a lot of people. May I go on, Your Honor? Yeah, there are a lot of people apparently who come in and out of there as not just full-time employees or part-time employees, but again as people who are secured or procured through temp agencies. We didn't get that far in our investigation because
they're doing what kind of work?
From mowing lawns to janitorial services, things of that nature, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now, I should say one more thing, if I could, and this it may not mean much, but the check that's at issue was actually cashed on May 28th. Okay, that's right before rent is due at that apartment complex. I believe someone knew that money would probably be in that checking account at that time. The last check for rent was issued April 22nd, the month before, for some $1,465. Similar amounts, Your Honor.
And was this check for $1,650?
This particular check was for $1,650, Your Honor. Close to the amount that we've seen, that
And
probably would have been in her account at the time.
And is she out that money?
No, Your Honor, she has been reimbursed by the bank.
Okay.
The bank is out the money.
Okay.
And it is my understanding that they never responded to any requests from victims' assistance. I could be
Who
wrong
did?
about
The bank
that.
didn't?
Pardon me?
The bank didn't?
Right.
So what the hell's going on here? I mean, far be it from me to tell a local police department what to do, but somebody on the inside is stealing. And if they don't figure it out, it's gonna keep happening.
I did intimate that to the VP, which is maybe why he stopped responding. But I did suggest to him
I
that there's
mean-
got to be an answer.
I mean, where is this place at?
It's right off of Jackson, Shamrock and Jackson, right around there.
Facing, or it goes down
It's-
toward down Shamrock? If you go, if you take a right on Shamrock, and you
And
go
you go
down, it's
toward
on
that-
the right? Okay.
Yeah, if you go down Shamrock and you go around toward that roundabout, it would be on your left side, Your Honor.
As you're going toward the.
Toward the
How
roundabout.
new is that complex? Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to say?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report. And the victim impact statement. I've considered all the provisions in 292911, 292912, and 292913. Considered what Mr. Johnson had to say, what counsels had to say. And you're either part of a ring, okay, that's doing this here, and I'm sure other places, because this is not just an isolated incident, because I don't know how the hell you recreate a check. I have no idea how you recreate a check. I have no idea how a recreated check would be taken into a bank where the account is, and nobody's alerted to it. I'm pretty disturbed that this complex has no interest in figuring anything out, whether it's here or in New York. So you're either part of this group or you're a patsy for this group, okay? You got a bad record, and you've done stuff like this in the past, and I have a hard time believing a guy named Pork comes to you, gives you a check to go to a bank that you don't go to and cash it and give him some of the cash back, and you didn't think with your history anything's wrong with that, okay? So, I don't know what's going on here. But if you're not part of this thing, and Pork must be making a lot of money doing this all over the place, because if it's that easy to recreate a check to fool Dollar Bank in this case, then it's easy to fool any other bank. Okay? But somebody at that apartment complex is actively involved in this. And whoever that somebody is, whether it's you or somebody else, knows Pork to carry out these schemes. So, in consideration of everything, I'm going to find you're not amenable to community control, and to sentence you to 12 months in prison with credit for 113 days. And the cost, when you get out, you might be on post-release control for up to 2 years under the parole authority with conditions. If you violate the conditions, the parole authority could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. If the violation's a new felony, you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for the violation, the maximum of which is the greater of 12 months of the time left under post-release control. Anything else, Mr. Tavanchi?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.